embracing imperfection, because do we have anybody out there who struggles with analysis paralysis? I do a lot better now than I used to, but as you all know, I've had some projects, some big things coming up, but we're going to talk about how to detach from outcomes, how to be okay with whatever is going down. Really hard to do, especially in this time, on this planet, in this day and age. There's so much. I do not watch the news anymore. It's too much. It overstimulates and makes me anxious. Before we dive in today, though, friend, that's what we're going to be covering today. Talking about imperfection. We are going to talk about the biggest challenges and mistakes, things that really the challenges that I'm running into over and over with people's voices. And it has more to do, it's mental and physical. It's not just, people think that the voice is something that's happening here with your lips and your jaw, and don't take into consideration the voice. All of this business here, friends, is connected way lower in the body, like all the way down to the planet, your feet on the planet. So we're going to talk about that. And then we are going to wrap things up with a couple of more mantra affirmations, which, speaking of, again, and actually, I have a free gift. It's out right now. I started delivering that a couple of weeks ago. And this is not just for women. It's called 26 Ways to Access Your Voice Instantly. It works for anybody. It's a very quick, just the meditation affirmation piece, A to Z, is about, I want to say it's about 6 minutes long, but it's an excellent piece just for starting your day. If you don't have anything else, if you don't use any of the apps that are available, I do a lot with Deepak Chopra. There's the Insight Timer. There's a lot of things out there. But if you have nothing and you don't know where to begin, 26 Ways to Access Your Voice Instantly is a breathing, relaxation, affirmations, A to Z. I actually did it on one of these lives a couple months back, where we literally are inhaling into your body, into your solar plexus, the words I am. And then you're releasing and exhaling. On the exhale, we went all the way through the alphabet from A to Z. And I put, along with that gift, are a PDF file that lists all of the affirmations that I used that day, but you can plug in your own. I think we exhaled out that day. I am was the inhale into the solar plexus. And then we exhaled, awesome. The next one, we inhaled, I am. And then we released and exhaled, beautiful, brave, bodacious, whatever you want to fill in the blank there. I gave you some things to start with, but that you don't have to stick with what I gave you. So let's go back for a minute. The biggest challenges that I see specific in the body, or mistakes, as I mentioned, is that people think the voice is something that is just going on here, when in fact, anything that we're doing, before you even open your mouth to speak, to share, if you're a singer, before you jump into your material, is really being mindful about where are you drawing that air and energy from. And it begins, the mechanics of it in your body begin with the solar plexus. What I see just about everybody who comes into my office or the studio is people want to take their breath, their inhale, up into the shoulders, creating all this additional tension and stress in the neck, in the back, in between your scapula and your shoulders. So now, not only have you created more tension, now you're going to be using your voice, presenting, leading your meeting, singing your song, performing your poetry from a place of tension. And that it's a snowball of a train wreck. It is really, really important that all of this stays relaxed and that you are mindful of drawing that air and energy all the way down into the body. I've mentioned on previous broadcasts that I love, and there are a million different exercises for breathing, and I use a lot of different things depending on who's coming in to see me and what their purpose is for being there. But I particularly like, and you can look this up on YouTube, I learned this from Deepak himself, it's called Dirga breathing, Dirga, Dirga breathing. And it's a 3-part breath where you're, and it's, I've heard other variations of it, but it really is drawing that breath all the way down first into your solar plexus muscle. Where you're drawing that breath, you're pulling that air down, moving that belly, it's kind of like an accordion forward. The next thing you're filling up are your rib cage. And the very last place you're going is to the lung and heart area. The exhale is the exact opposite of that. You are dropping down, you're collapsing lung, contracting ribs, contracting solar plexus. So if we breathe again, breathing in forward, expanding and out. And then we do the opposite of that, contract, collapse, contract on the exhale. Anyway, I'm going to be covering a lot on that. Some other things that I see a lot of challenges, besides the breathing thing, that is probably the number one issue that I see with most clients. But the other one connected to, but also a case in itself, is people speaking or putting out energy from your throat. So I can't even demonstrate these things anymore because it is so programmed in my body. I'm so trained after 20 years of doing this work. But it will tend to, if I were speaking from my throat, right now I'm trying to demonstrate the difference between this and my throat. I'm trying not to be connected. In fact, I'm contracting my solar plexus right now while I speak from my throat. Versus, can you hear the difference from here to here? Do you hear what happened here versus here? Different parts of my body. And what tends to happen, and you'll know if this is happening, some indicators. If you are speaking, one, if you're disconnected from your solar plexus, from your support. Two, if you are speaking, singing, producing sound from your throat, you will know because your throat will start to get sore. Taking a sip here. If you struggle with hoarseness, if you lose your voice frequently, these are all indicators that you are probably not connected to the solar plexus. And these are all things I'm going to be covering in my workshop next week for all of you ladies. So one of the things that we'll do and how I help people with their voice in these areas is the physiology of the body. We go through essentially my life's work, the mechanics. You've got one voice, 3 vocal vicinities, a 4-point technique that I've been using effectively gets immediate results, I'm going to be talking about the elements in your voice, the 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, metal, how to use those effectively in conversations and compassionate communication. I recently have, there's so much going on in the planet. There's so many things to cause us to be anxious or uptight or disconnected from our center. And I found myself getting worked up and disconnecting and hyperventilating and being upset and attached to certain outcomes. And when I was able to grab that breath, slow down, center, remind myself, what's really going on, what might be my imagination, detaching from outcomes and just being in acceptance, total different space. And almost immediate. There's so much to be said for acceptance. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. Embracing imperfection. Here are some thoughts, some things to chew on. And I would type and write, but I don't want to mess up what I've got going on already. Some things to think about are that we are already perfectly imperfect. And in one of the meditations I was doing recently, if we strive, and I can't remember who quoted this, but if we strive to be perfect, we are never going to get there. It's just never going to happen. So again, coming back to accepting exactly where we're at and being good with that process is just such an easier way to live on the planet. I mentioned in the notes, the show notes, that we are both being and becoming at the same time. This whole thing is a journey. There is, at least my perspective, I consider myself a lifelong learner. If you consider yourself the same, then you're in great company. Coming back to acceptance, you know, we're going to breathe this in a minute, but it's about accepting who we are, where we are, exactly where we're at, and what is our next step, if we even need to have a next step. Because if we are truly in acceptance with where we are, our personal life, our professional life, our voice, the sound, the tonal quality, how we use our voice, if we're truly in acceptance, there really might not be a next step. So something to think about there. And I already mentioned that perfection in the show notes is a perception. So I want to do a quick breath work with you before we sign off, because we are keeping these right in the time limit. Left hand on your heart, right hand on that solar plexus muscle that sits below your rib cage, above your belly button. And what we're going to inhale is that I am being, and we're going to exhale and becoming. So nice big breath all the way in, breath. And then to yourself, or quietly, wherever you're at, I am being. And then we're going to exhale the words, and becoming. Let's do the other one. Breathing in, perception is. Breath in, perfection. Breathing in, perfection is. And then we're going to exhale a perception. So you have 2 new affirmations where you're going to breathe in, inhaling all the way down past the lungs into the solar plexus. Perfection is. And then exhaling a perception. Second one, breathing in, I am being. Exhaling and becoming. And so much of our perception, sometimes it's just that. It's our perception, which is not necessarily real. So whether real or perceived, I think there's a lot to be said when we incorporate that breath. We get centered. We're able to detach from what's going on, taking a step back, kind of like, stepping out of the room and taking a look from the outside really helps to put things back into perspective. So 26 ways to access your voice instantly is for all of you. Anybody who's watching, you do not have to be part of the Anxious to Awesome workshop next week. That is a separate event that is just for ladies only. So if you can get over there, register, get your PDF downloaded, and let's have a good time. And in the meantime, too, on any of the social platforms, here in the replay, let me know your questions. If there are specific things I'm probably already going to cover it next week. So I'm very excited. I'm thorough and I've worked really hard to pull it all together for you.